Today I'd like to show you how I would take a beginning student or advanced student that came to me and would work from the ground up and examine everything and to change or not to change things without using words. You know, the bass players are very, very funny people. We can't agree on anything. Some basses are viol construction, some basses are violin construction, some bass players use French bow, some bass players use German bow, some bass players stand, some bass players sit, some bass players have 5 strings, some bass players have extensions, some bass players have a hard time getting along with people. Well, anyway, I'd like to start with just how, from the bottom up, I would put my feet in a right angle, and I would put my stomach against the side of the bass, and I would balance it, and that's the end of the conversation. And put my hands on either side. I like the idea of a weightless bass. Weightless and no weight on my left hand at all. If there's any weight at all, it will come down on the bow. It would help me with my stroke. So that all my hand has to do is focus all of its strength in fingering. And you'll find many bass players that are small people and many bass players that are big people. And because of the size of the strings and the distances, the left hand should only be concerned with fingering and not holding the bass up. If you notice that some bass players teach leaning bass and some bass players teach an upright bass. And I've found that for myself, it depends on whether it's a right-handed bass player or a left-handed bass player. If a student is left-handed, that means the fingering comes easily to him and he'll want to focus more of his attention on bowing. And so standing upright gives him more power with the bow. But if he's a right-handed bass player, the bowing comes easily and he wants to concentrate more on fingering, and so he brings the fingerings in, like this. And that's the only real difference that I can find. An upright bass favors bowing. A leaning bass favors fingering. Okay. I would like to move up to the height of the bass. And the height of the bass, I was taught, depends on the height of the student. But a good bass teacher that I met told me that it really should depend on the length of a student's arm. So if you look at the bass face to face and put your hand on the bridge, you just should be able to touch it with your elbow bent comfortably. That's the critical factor, the arm length. Okay, now come back. I'd like to ask you to play Pizzicato. I'm going to play 2 of the thinnest strings, and you answer me. Okay, be aware that you're pulling the sound out of the bass. Always pulling the sound, you're ringing. Good. I want you to do the same motion with your left hand, and you're coming over the top of the bass. Good. I see you doing this. Okay, we're not saluting today. Okay, just a circle. Good. We pick the French bow up. The French bow. May I see your French bow? Okay. Many people say to me that the French bow is difficult for bass players because it's too heavy. If you look at, this is a French bow. I bought it in France. This is an American French bow. You have to be very careful with American manufacturers because they use the same stick for German and French bow, and they put a German frog or a French frog on it. But the real, true French bass bow is a very, very short bow, and it's very easy to use. The normal types of bows you see in school are much too long, and as a result, they're heavy, and they're hard to hold. The critical factor on a French bow, and I'm talking about the first lesson, or for someone who's not real sure, or like a violin teacher teaching bass, is crossing the T. Can you see that? Crossing the T. That's it. That's what I look for the most. Most of the time you see this. You see all the tension. Do you see the blood pooling there on either side? The circulation is stopped. And immediately you're going to have problems. And fatigue. So you must have the cross the T. Okay. That's the key point. The other key point is the little finger is not on top. It's not on top. And it's a very hard grip because it feels very insecure. So that thumb is bent. Good. Okay. German bow. First lesson, or if you're teaching 15 bass players at the same time and you only have time to run around the room twice, the critical point on the German bow is the opposition of a little finger and the thumb, in my opinion. Most of the time you see German bow strokes done, holds done this way, with the thumb on the side of a little finger. See? It's straight up, opposite. Many times I've seen it done this way, and it's flat. You see what immediately happens is the wrist comes up when you have the straight little finger. Okay, the other fingers fall. They're all important, but if I have to look for one thing in a class of 15 bass players, I look for this. Okay, how do you get them to do it? All right. Again, I'm trying to get tension-free bass playing. Shake their arms out. Place it. And I make the opposition, and I walk away. You're invading the student's body space, and they're threatened by you. So you must come in, do what you have to do, and move away. Okay? So give them a private lesson by shaking the tension out. Make sure that wrist is flat. Come in and walk away. If you do this 15 times, he begins to think there's something important. Okay, next thing. I'm going to ask them, do you remember at the beginning of a lesson I asked them to do left-handed pizzicato? Remember? With this hand? Can you do that? Good. Remember, he's not holding the bass up with his hands. That's good. The ringing sound. I want the bow to have the same ring. Put your hand over here. Okay. Always pulling the sound out of the bass, the stroke. Good. Good. I'd like to show you left hand technique now. Moving along, the key point would be the spacing between the first and the second finger and the second finger and the fourth. They must be equal distance. If I take the third finger out, then you see it's equal. One way of showing that is with the ping pongs. Rather than saying it must be 15 centimeters apart or something like that, it's equal.
My goodness.
Okay? So, little finger and a little finger. Okay? Another way of doing that is to put your first finger on your eyebrow, your second finger on your nose, your fourth finger on your mouth, and your thumb on your ear. Okay? Then you have the classic shaped left hand. The key point for left hand technique is the thumb. For the first lesson, it must be behind. And it must be in the general area of the second finger when you play. Like that. Okay, after you form this left hand, the next thing you have to look at is the elbow. It has to be up, and the shoulder has to be down. And the common mistake is just to worry about the elbow and push the elbow up, like this. You see many bass players play with that type of a shoulder. There's unnecessary tension, and I want to get rid of that. So, okay, come on up. That's it. There. Now relax. I'm going to take the ball away. So that's a much more natural position there. And there's no tension right there at all. Okay. After you've got that, the next step would be to engage the back muscles. Because bass players like me and 5th graders and 6th graders really don't have enough power. So we have to use all the muscles. After you've worked with the elbow and the shoulder and you've got it comfortable, I want to get the student to use his back muscles. The back muscles would be, you turn around, this area right here. The best way to do that is to ask him to form his hand by coming around, rather than asking him to play with his left hand coming straight up. Will you put your hand down, your left hand down, now come straight up. And put your hand on the bed, okay? This time, put your hand down and come over the top. Do you feel all the muscles in the back being used? It's much, much stronger. Another game to illustrate that would be like this. And I've got using my back muscles with the cover. You can walk around the room and just do, I'm referring to the roll and case walk. The violin,
this.
the muscles are this. But the bass player, the muscles are this. So when the violin players use the roll and case walk, the bass players use the elephant walk. It's the trunk. Okay. I've showed you what I would look for in every lesson, specific key points to teach. The next thing now I start working into technique. And I must tell you that I believe strongly that you must teach in your first lesson what you want a student to know 10 years down the road. And every lesson is the same material, only embellished and more embellished and more embellished. It's critical that you teach in your first lesson or your first 10 lessons the high positions. Otherwise, the student suffers nosebleeds. And it's a very, very common bass illness that you teach progressively up the bass. And when he gets into these particular positions, in 10 years, he's scared to death of them. And he has to overcome those fears. And it's really, they're very, very simple positions if you do something like harmonics. Harmonics to me is a wonderful type of general technique that can be used for all kinds of exercises. It's a very good exercise for a first time use of the bow and the left hand together. Up to this point, with a beginning student, I've only done bowing studies, or I've only done fingering studies. I've isolated the left hand from the right hand. The first time I want to put them together and start to get a free sound would be with harmonics. So I'm going to play 4 notes, and I'd like you to repeat it after me. We're going to use the harmonic that's halfway down the bass.
Harmonic halfway down the
Play. Okay, now you notice that there's no way a student can have any kind of a cut finger from that. It's just not a problem. But for the first time, he's coordinating both hands. Let me do another one, about a third of the way down the bass. Now that was my critical point that I watched. The wrist, the thumb, the little finger. Okay? The next one. Stop. Drop your wrist. That's it. Too much. Okay? I want you to use a flat bow. I want you to use all the hair that horse sacrificed. Okay, all right. Now, if you notice what's happening, both hands are working. Both hands are stretched out. The student is up on the high positions, doing something that he can't possibly fail at. I'm going to come back down to the open strings. Stand up straight. Balance your bass. Okay, left hand. Can you play that? That's good. Okay. Okay, do that. Okay. Okay, now we're getting more technique. Let me talk just for a second about your bow stroke. You're stroking much too fast. You must be a violin or viola player.
Yes.
Okay. I want you to bow on both sides of a string. I want you to imagine that the hair is curled on this side as well as the top side, and you're stroking pulling all of the sound out from both sides of the string.
Start on the top and then go to
Okay,
the
no, don't. Just imagine that your hair is curled on both sides of the string. You're going to pull the sound out. Okay? Okay?
Oh, I see.
No. Better? Okay, we lost it. Let me go backtrack. I want this sound. You play. Better. You do it. Good. Okay. Now you're pressing down. I want you to pull out. Okay. All right, now another thing. I'm going to ask you. Relax. I have my finger on the bow. When I let go, you're going to pull all the sound out of the bass. Better? Okay. All that sound is waiting to get out. Better? Better? Pull a little slower. Now. Better? 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 That's it. Good. Okay. On the board, if I use these harmonic studies, I can teach the high positions. I can teach an open, free-sounding bow stroke. I can also teach all of the positions without using the word position. There's a harmonic, if I call the open string a harmonic. Harmonic where the fourth finger is, with a normal old Samantha book called third position. Without using any marks on my instrument. Is my harmonic. Using those harmonics that I've taught. I can also teach thumb position exactly the same way, using the same notes. The thumb becomes a harmonic, the highest note becomes a harmonic, and that's my measuring point without putting any marks on the bass. If you notice that I put chalk marks on the bass, in my opinion, that's the only type of marking you should put on an instrument. The reason is it's temporary, it rubs off, and I as a teacher have to keep re-putting it on. And after a while you think the student is going to know it. And I physically have to keep putting it on all the time.
Could you explain this?
Okay, that's a taps. That's a song that most everybody knows. I haven't found a student yet who doesn't like playing taps. You get 15 bass players together, and they love to play it at midnight out on the sidewalk. It sounds high. It's not what people consider normal bass sound. This is normal, what most people can think of as bass. And I like that because it sounds pretty. It's the high position. It's an easy way of playing, and it's all the way off the end.
Third
Let me
part
play the
first.
whole thing. Will you take your bow and follow along
All
with
right.
me? I'm on the second phase. I'm going to do it 3 times in a row. Okay. And you take the same song, the lower harmonics, then you have your tuning harmonics, plus you have the introduction in the second position, you have an introduction in the third position, you have a yardstick to go by other than marking your fingerboard. Okay. Then also you use your harmonics to teach fourth position and sixth position and fifth position by using the harmonics as your fingerboard markings instead of tape. If I could just take a minute and talk about terminology. Bass players suffer from violin terminology all the time. To a violin player, this is the down bow, this is an up bow. For a bass player, there's no way in the world this is the down bow, this is an up bow. It means absolutely nothing. Also, we say go up the bass or go down the bass. So I found that using the words up and down are very confusing. So I only use the word up and down in terms of pitch. And you say in or out, or whatever words you want.
In and out, huh?
Later on, down and up. Because you're having, this is down, this is up, this is down, and this is up. None of which makes any sense. Okay, I'd like to show an easy way of converting a fingering thumb position for a violin teacher, a viola teacher, a cello teacher. When I was taught bass, I was taught thumb position as a totally new technique, which made it unnecessarily difficult. If it was taught to me as part of a harmonics series, or if it was taught to me as an octave higher fingering, it would have been much, much simpler. Psychologically, this was very frightening to me, to see all these ledger lines. For bass players who normally only see 2 notes in the measure, this is very hard. So the way I was taught to finger this would be thumb, 1, 2, 3. That's a mandel fingering. But it does not tell me where the shift, it does not tell me where the whole steps or half steps are. The relationship is completely destroyed. So if I go back to what I taught in my first lesson 10 years before, which was a pattern, and I go back to I taught this. This is a very good fingering. Oh, it's the mandel. The shift is here. Second position. Do you agree with that fingering? Okay.
Yes.
As a pretty common fingering.
Right.
This could be another one.
Yes.
That's not as good. Okay. And the shift would be here.
Right.
This probably would be the best fingering. So if I convert open the thumb, 1 is still 1. My 2 is 2. 4 is 3.
Yeah. All right.
I know immediately I have to shift here.
I see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I take thumb
So-
position, I work it down an octave.
2, then I shift.
Or if I take this fingering, it'd be thumb, 1, 3, 3, and the shift is here.
Same thing then.
Okay. I really think thumb position should be taught physical aspects first, then the reading, and not together. The reading presents psychological problems. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is a very, very common bow stroke problem, especially with the German bow. Will you put your bow on the string? Many, many bass players play with the wrist up. And it's almost impossible to cure. That's why it's critical that you notice that the first day. And many times the wrist is up because the little finger is on the side rather than straight. Or it's completely straight here. If you play completely straight, the wrist comes up. See it?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes words don't
That
work.
way rather than
Sometimes
this way.
hitting a student doesn't work. So as a last resort, you might want to try a ping pong ball. And again, this is for an upright bass. For a leaning bass, it doesn't work as well. And I put the ping pong ball on the end of the bow, and I drop it. And then I pick up another ball. I ask them to draw a very, very smooth stroke. Okay? I want you to draw a stroke. Come back. Okay. Now, will you bend your wrist towards me? Okay. It's impossible. Your ping pong ball
falls
won't
off.
stay on.
Because it does it that way. But this, So
And
actually,
immediately it brings the wrist down.
actually the problem is in the wrist
Yes.
rather than doing this all the
On
time.
the French bow, it works too. And again, this is more for an upright bass rather than a leaning bass. You notice that it also flattens the bow out. It makes the student use all of his hair. Okay. That's better.
Bravo.
Good. That's fine. Okay, there's another thing that we could talk about is about how do you start a student, how do you teach the E string? The E string is a very, very difficult string to teach because, again, it combines a strength problem. So one way is that if you start going from a fast stroke to a slow stroke to a fast stroke, a short stroke to a longer stroke, or a longer stroke to a short stroke. So what I'd like to do is a game I call the train. May I demonstrate? The long stroke. And the object of it is to make the E string touch the A string.
Oh.
Okay? Can you
A-train,
try
huh?
that with me? Ready? Make the E string touch the A string. Play. More. More. Okay, now we're going to move out of the station. We're going to start stroking faster. And we're going to go back and forth. Instead of the bow stroke got smaller and smaller and smaller, and down to my fingertips. So when you do that, that's a very easy game to play for beginners. And it starts from the large stroke to the smaller stroke, down to the forearm, and down to the fingertips. On the hardest string on the bass. Ready? Let's play train. Touch the A string with the string. Now, back forth. Punch it. Faster. Bounce bow. Treble. Fingertips. Fingertips. Faster. Move towards the middle of the bow. That's your balance point. Now move out of the station. Keep your wrist down. Keep your wrist down. You're still watching all those key points. And fade away. Okay? Okay. I'm going to talk about vibrato. When I was taught vibrato, I was taught to open a door. Or I was taught to slide my hand up and down the fingerboard. Or I was taught to go, or all of which I could do. But when I played the music, I couldn't get it because it was a separate technique. So we go back to one of the first things we taught the first day, which was harmonics. Okay, now I want you to do, without the bow, put the bow down. I want you to go 1, 2, 3, 4. No pressure. I want you to go all the way across, touch the string, and come back. Okay. I want you to do it in rhythm with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now do it with your second finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. First finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now go back here with your first finger. Now we're going to hold the string down. I want you to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that means nothing to you. I've lost you already. So now I'm going to add on this bow. Watch. No, I'm going to use two different techniques to teach you vibrato. I'm going to make it as part of an embellishment of something I taught you already. 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can you do that? Ready? Here's your pitch. Okay? Ready? Play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Okay. Second finger. Listen. 1, 2, 3. No, watch me. You got to watch the teacher. It makes it feel important. 1, 2, 3, fourth finger. All right, now I'm going to tell you a little secret. I want you to drop your thumb just a little bit. Okay, and lift your first 2 fingers off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Okay. After we've done this 1,000 times, I want you to be aware that I want you to vibrato as fast as your note is vibrating. I want you to vibrato as fast as your note is vibrating. So if you have a G string vibrato on a harmonic, to be sensitive to how fast the string is oscillating. If I'm on the E string, I put a vibrato slower, or as David would say, change the width. It's slower or faster, or the width. Also, you crescendo with your vibratos. You go from a wide to a small vibrato as an expressive way of playing vibrato. There's another thing I could talk about. It's called shifting. When you're going up, be aware that fourth finger going up tends to go flat. 4, 4, just from a drag. And 1, 1 going down tends to go sharp, just from the drag. So usually avoid 4, 4 going up or 1, 1 going down. When you shift, do you shift on the note you're going to, or do you shift on the note that you started with?
Both, depending on the music.
Ah.
At least on
Spoken
the
like a true
violin
bass
viola.
player.
What?
Spoken like a true bass player.
Well, good. Spoken like a true string player.
Okay. Okay. Do you shift with the pressure on the string, or do you take you ride the string like a rail?
So, you ride it like a harmonic, or you ride it like a rail. You don't press it down when you
No.
shift. The relationship of the bow to the bridge, particularly in the string length, because bass players tend to play here all the time because they bow too fast.
Yes.
So, would you talk about that just a little?
The same thing I spoke about vibrato is being sensitive to how fast your string is vibrating also pertains to the bow stroke. When you're on the G string, you bow a little bit faster than you bow on the E string. The E string is often bowed, you're hitting only the overtones. You're really not hitting the fundamental tone. Most people hit one of the overtones because they're stroking much, much too fast. And again, the E string, if I was taking a whole note, a given time, a note of a given time quality, the G string would be bowed, for example, a whole bow. The D string would perhaps be 3/4. The A string would be half. E string would be 1/4 for a note of a given time value. And it varies all the way down the space, up and down. But for myself, it's just a matter of being sensitive to how fast the string is vibrating and trying to be one with what's going on with my bass. It would be a little faster. The bow would be faster just from being sensitive.
So it's related to the frequency and the string length.
Okay, now to answer your question, the string length, you get more sound with more string length. If you had a choice between a third position A and a first position A with no other variable, you would choose the first position A because you have more string and you have more tone. The shorter the string is, the less overtone that you can employ. So when you talk about where you should bow in relation to the bridge, in general, you should move the bow so you have more string length. As much string length as you could use without, so when you're in thumb position, you would bow closer to the bridge, in my opinion. And when you're in first position, you would bow closer to the fingerboard.
Does that same thing apply when you pizzicato, or where you pizzicato the string and your string length?
Well, pizzicato bass playing is a subculture all on its own. So are you talking about bluegrass? Are you
No,
talking
no,
about-
just symphonic traditional playing. Do you pizzicato also relationship to the bridge and your string length?
I'd have to say that it depends on what bass you're using and where the best place is for it. And pizzicato is very different. You get a very dry pizzicato here. In general, the best pizzicato is right about here.
Right.
Down here, you get a very sticky pizzicato because you get rosin all over your fingers.
All right.
Yes. So most time bass players play right around here. But again, it depends on what type of sound you want for your pizzicato. If I could change the bass teaching for most bass teachers, I would say teach your students more pizzicato and teach your students more harmonics. The biggest reason is that that's the most free vibrating sound on the bass, the pizzicato, the free ringing sound, and then relate all of the pizzicato sounds or the harmonic sounds to your normal bass playing. I can remember going all the way through high school, and not until college did I understand that the bass players were not meant to scrub.
Which means that you're suggesting the bassist should play solos the same as a violin, viola, or cello, rather than just think about it as orchestral.
I think bass players should play anything. I think bass players should not play rest all the time. Bass players have every right to be soloists.
Very good.
My only problem is that most bass solos are written as comical numbers. They're written as elephants. They're never swans. They're written as
But that's
buffoons.
changing now. There's a great deal of nice bass solo literature.
But bass players have often been considered the well, a lot of bass players are very nice people. But we don't get asked to parties very often.
Well, don't you think that's changing? Now we have bass virtuosi that we never knew about 30 years ago, 40
Yes.
years ago.
Yes.
So the scene is changing, thanks to teachers like you.
Oh,